us all to a special edition of the regular programs on the Empower Africa project, the NMSMEs Business Scaling Conference 2023. Welcome all our guests, all our guest speakers, all our VIPs, the executives of BMOs from NASIMA, NMSME, and the women wing of the NASIMA, and all our NMSMEs across the country joining us both on the Connect platform and the YouTube. You're welcome. We have, of course, great time to spend together because of the topic we have before us and the concept we want to cover. Like you all know that the Empower Africa project, the focus is to build a poverty-free continent by leveraging on the power of technology. And we take entrepreneurship very key, and of course the NMSMEs in Nigeria and in Africa are very important to us. So today we're looking at, in the theme of the NMSMEs Business Scaling Conference 2023, we're looking at the new national policy on MSMEs and the ease of doing regular and export businesses in and from Nigeria. We have to take up this topic and such a time like this because the country is about to witness another change of government. And what has been the regular thing, the common thing with our nation is that anytime we have a change of government, there is always a kind of issue with sustainability and continuity. It's always like it's always like having abandoned projects every now and then after resources, fund, effort have been put to, ideas have been put together. Well, of course, we all remember that even from the previous 2-3 governments, there have been several policies, several plans, ideas, and consideration that are being dropped, either being dropped completely or come up with a different concept again when you have another government. And this is not going to help a nation. There has to be a master plan for any nation that will succeed. And then coming to talk about the NMSMEs, we all know it is no more something strange when we say that NMSMEs is key in the development of any nation, especially the African nations. We know so much that we cannot be joking with the future of NMSM if we want to do well as a country. So for us to afford, if for some of us that follow the drafting, the bringing together of the policy, the NMSMEs policy, and what the Nigeria Export Promotion Commission has been doing, we will know that it's not the right thing to do, abandoning. Okay, it's not the right thing to do to abandon the efforts by the new government coming in. And so how do we be sure that we make this happen, that the policies, the efforts are not abandoned? What to do is that the stakeholders as regard to NMSME project, the BMOs, the NMSMEs on their own, should keep talking and keep pushing, should not be silent when the new government will come up and draft whatever, however they want to run the country. The NMSMEs must be in the agenda of the new government, and not just being in the agenda of the new government, must be able to see ASAP anytime they need information. They must be able to say, Smidan, what do you have there? They must be able to tell the BMOs, how do you understand it? So we decided, we look at it that it's good that we have this program in a time like this. And the truth is that from the implementation, because 2023, it's really going to be for the onset of so many implementation of policies and acts. So it's good. We know so far how the BMOs are feeling, how the MSMEs are feeling concerning the policy. Do they even know the policy and what the understanding, and what are the neglecting area in the policy, and what to make happen for us to have successful implementation. So this program is all about successful implementation, successful business in Nigeria. And we know as well that many people will going into export business, but they have been here to say and so many things about the trading or talking about people. Really, there are so many states that don't know even the commodities for their states. As someone who has gone around by the virtue of presiding on the Empower Africa project, I travel to states and I see that one of the challenges we are having currently in this country that I really want us to really solve is the idea of the policy or the act or the rule at the federal and Lagos level compared to the grassroots, compared to other states. What I've discovered is that the federal and Lagos state have the understanding of any policy or any act, any law that comes out, but at the state level, the sensitization, even the knowledge before the sensitization, the knowledge is not deep, that at the state level, so many people at the state level cannot explain. For example, I was in a meeting where they were discussing the Nigerian the Nigerian Startup Act. I discovered that the understanding at the federal level about the Startup Act is different from what the states understand about it. And then same way when you get to where the NMSMEs policy is being discussed or exportation, you discover that there is a gap in between the federal capital and federal capital Lagos state together and other states, except sometimes Kano picking up and Port Harcourt and things like that. So we need to have a focus of not just letting it limiting the concept to just the federal level. This at the state level, people should have the understanding to adopt any policy and to run with policies. So people at many, even despite the state, is the effort at the state that we have. For example, if you talk about digital economy, the state government in their ministry don't have digital economy, and at the federal we have communication and digital economy. So what it means that the state has to do something. And same thing, thank God we have SMEDAN in almost all our states today, which wasn't like that before. So we really give credit to the executives. SMEDAN, as one who is in and close, I really see that SMEDAN is doing well, and so with the NEPC, but perhaps there are other areas we need to cover. So today, we are having with us the representative of the DG, SMEDAN, DG of Small Medium Enterprise Development Agency of Nigeria, Mr. Wale Fasenya, who actually tried to make it, but because of other engagement and even his been so engaged. So we have with us a very lovely director, Onesi Lawani, is the Chief Strategy Officer to DG, and of course, in fact, is the strategic person, is the one to really be here to talk about this. So Mr. Onesi Lawani will be, who happens to be the Chief Strategy Officer to DG, will be talking to us about the NMSMEs policy, what will the people need to know, and then we will be having from the representative of Nigeria Export Promotion Commission talking to us about the ease of doing business outside, in and outside the country, like commodities and the other things. And we have in the house, among BMOs, we have the ASBON, the Association for Small Business Owners of Nigeria. We have the President, Mr. Femi Egbeshola, who will be talking to us on the angle of Small Business Association in Nigeria. We have the Nigerian Association of Small Scale Industry representative. We have Dr. Henry, who will be talking to us from that angle. Then we have the women representative of the National no, the National Women's Group, Business Women's Group. So we'll be having Mrs. Patricia Dakwa speaking from that area, from that angle. And we have, I think we have Biola Olushola in the house. You're welcome, Biola Olushola. Thank you. So we like I said, we are really going to have a wonderful time together. So right now, we will want to welcome Mr. Onesi Lawani with a slide, taking the floor. Then after him, I'll be introducing the NEPC director, speaker that will be taking us. I think I have Provale. Then we will have the response. And you can see the way we have arranged this program. In most times when people attend programs, we have the presentation and then you have this discussant. It is not about discussing. We have to select people that on behalf of BMOs, okay, the representative of NAWOC chairperson is having difficulty signing to the meeting. Oh, please, our engineer, please help us attend to that. I don't know what there should be. Maybe she should check our network. You can change our network. By the way, I didn't talk about Connect is an indigenous web conferencing platform. Okay, our engineer is on it now. Okay, so it's one of the things you enjoy when you use Connect. You have home support. You have home support, and it's a web conference. When you say buy Nigeria, promote Nigeria, use Nigeria, be part of innovation. This Connect is one of the startup in Nigeria. It's one of the innovation. So I want us to in our organizations to try it out, see it's good, and you can. Of course, this is not paying dollars; you are paying naira when you are using Connect. So let's welcome our first speaker, our wonderful director, Oseni Lawani. Over to you, sir.
Hello, can you hear me, please?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Onesi Lawani. I actually work with the Small and Medium Enterprises Development Agency of Nigeria, and I work closely with the Director General. Unfortunately, he could not join this meeting. He would have loved to be here, but for some issues that borders on his engagement and somehow his health, he said I should stand in for him. All the same, I just believe that we should be able to be better briefed on the content and the purpose of the new national or the revised national policy on MSMEs. I want to ask my support to help me roll the slides, please. Yes. Yeah, like we all know.
I'm loading it. Can you see it, sir?
Yes, I can see it. Yeah, I can see it. Essentially, the essence of this meeting is for, like the Ola Saints talked about, people are not aware about any policy that borders on the national, the micro, small, and medium enterprises, not to even talk about the revised or new version. So the essence of this meeting is to use this platform to create awareness about the national policy and to also allow ownership of the national policy, even at the implementation level, both at the national and subnational levels. We actually went around during the revision process. We went to all the geopolitical zones, but I know that not everybody will be represented, but we did as much as going around to all the six geopolitical, zones. It is also to create a platform for stakeholders where we can regularly interface towards maybe making input on how the national policy recommendations can be implemented. Then definitely at the end of today, I am so sure that I will get some feedbacks on whatever I'm going to say today concerning or that borders on the national policy. And that will also help us in shaping or looking at what we intend to do or what the policy intends to do. Now, before the first policy in 2007, there was no policy framework that was essentially designed or put in place to help in the development of the micro, small, and medium enterprises subsector. So in essence, the first policy, next slide please. The first policy actually came up in 2007. Next please. Came up in 2007, and the first revision was done in 2015. And the second revision, we started the process in 2019, but we did not conclude it until 2020. And it was signed March 17 by Mr. President during the FEC meeting in 2021. So effectively, the revised national policy is effective from 2021 up to 2025. It's a 4-year term. Next slide, please. Then what are the objectives of this, the fundamental objectives of this policy? Essentially, like we know, the micro, small, and medium enterprises are responsible for over 46% GDP. It is 70% employment. So it is a very critical sector. So what is the policy supposed to do is to see how the policy can sustain this vibrant MSME subsector. And one other objective is to see how we can ensure that there is an emergence of new micro, small, and medium enterprises in Nigeria, with a special focus on women and youth for obvious reasons. Then the policy is also intended to see how they can help in ensuring the profitable expansion of MSMEs that are already in existence, looking at all the value chains across the sector. Then lastly, it is also to help address the peculiarities of the MSME subsector and to see how we can implement the policy recommendations using the public-private platforms that is available. Now, like I said, most Nigerian MSMEs, even the enablers, are not aware of the policy. So there are some new introductions in the policy that we need to tell ourselves or to educate ourselves on. One of such new changes is borders on two major areas. One, we've replaced the definition of MSMEs looking at asset. We've changed to turnover. Use turnover as a yardstick for measuring. Then we have also split the micro enterprise into two subgroups. That is why you can hear St. Ola always talking about NMSMEs. N there means nano. Before now, we used to talk about micro, small, and medium enterprises. But this policy, because of the peculiarity of the huge number of the nano enterprises, they had to make special case for them. So we now have a new classification that we refer to as nano, micro, small, and medium enterprises in Nigeria. Now, what are some of the changes in the new policy? Like I said, the classification and definition. Like I said, we've replaced asset base with turnover. And why did we think this was necessary? One of the factors is when you look at Nigeria, the inflation rate is on this continuous rise. So when you're looking at the asset levels that was set in 2007 and you want to compare it to the asset level of this year, you see that there is no basis for that. The depreciation, the inflation has eroded everything that you can think about. Then as a result of this, you see that it is very difficult to compare new investment and old ones because the case is different when you are using turnover to compare. on like when you're looking at asset. Then another issue is when you are trying to certify the asset value, it is much more complex than when you are using turnover values. So these are some of the reasons. There's so many reasons. Then, especially again, one of the reasons is the former definition was sort of excluded. Excluded the use of land or land, say excluding land and buildings. And we just believe that if you exclude land and buildings for a farmer, somebody that is into farming, okay, what other asset does the person have? So we believe that it is not necessary, you cannot exclude land and building when you're talking about, when you want to help in assessing the value of an enterprise. Then you can also see that these fintech companies had also came and distorted that former definition. You now have fintech companies, maybe just 2-3 people, and they are churning out billions. So it distorted the whole definition that the traditional relationship that we used to have between asset base and business turnover. They can just have some 3 laptops and they are churning out billions. Unlike some people that will have equipment in their workspace, in their workshop, maybe running into millions or even billions, and they are not making as much money as these fintech companies. Then also our experiences from other clients shows that everybody is shifting from using asset to define NMSMEs and now focusing on turnovers. Then, if you look at the company income tax waiver in 2020 Act, you see that technically they too shifted from talking about asset into their focus was also on turnover. Now, I talked about the split of the micro enterprises into 2. What were the justification? One, you see that most of these micro enterprises, or the people who refer to as micro enterprises, are actually enterprises owned by one person or managed by one person and not maybe 2 people working on it. It's a family thing. Then if you look at in 2013, 83.2% of the micro enterprises just had initial setup capital of 100,000. Then the split also will help in separating those micro enterprises that are formal in nature and those that are informal, and the number is huge. So we cannot just do away with those tiny enterprises that are largely informal. Then the market money and the trader money also somehow tried to see or to help in defining or separating the micro enterprises from the nano enterprises. So we just did something in line with that and felt that there was the need to have a clearly defined micro enterprises and nano enterprises, so that policy targeting and intervention targeting will be more focused. Now, maybe for a better understanding, the new classification now is now nano, micro, small, and medium. Any enterprise that has just 1 to 2 people running it or owning it is regarded as nano enterprise. And again, if you have a turnover of less than 3 million, you are regarded as a nano enterprise. You are regarded as a micro enterprise if you have up to 3 to 9 people, less than 10 people with you, and you make less than 25 million as turnover. Then you are regarded as small if you have between 11 to less than 50, like 49 people working with you, and you make less than 100 million as turnover. You may have less than 100 million as turnover. Then you are regarded as medium if you have up to 199 people working with you plus you, and you make just less than 1 billion as turnover. Now, the policy in trying to address the challenges or provide a framework for the development of the micro, small, and medium enterprises identify 9 key priority areas. And this essentially others on awareness creation on the MSME policy, which this platform is helping the agency to do. We talked about the finance, which is a major issue when you talk about MSME development, skills development, technology research and development, extension and support services. Is also borders on marketing. Then there's this issue of infrastructure and cost of doing business. Then there are some other areas that we believe that should be a major focus of any development plan. And we call them priority sector or target enterprises. And this include agriculture, solid minerals, construction, manufacturing, creative industry, a whole lot of that. So the current national policy has in total about 154 recommendations or initiatives. And there is barely anything that you can think of that is not that's not contained in these recommendations. If we can jointly or as a nation run, even if it is 30% or 40% of the recommendations of the national policy, the current national policy, I can bet that Nigeria will be one of the nations, one of the developed nations in the world, and will take advantage of whatever initiatives such as the AFTA and AGOA initiatives. Like I said, finance is a big issue. And under finance alone, we have 29, there are 29 recommendations. And part of the recommendations is for the need to create a funding or MSME funding portal that will showcase all the funding opportunities in Nigeria, so that at a press of a button, an entrepreneur, whether nano, micro, or medium entrepreneur, can have access to all the information that he or she needs to know on the funding opportunities. We get to hear all the time that it is not as if there's no money for the MSMEs, but the problem has always been that the MSMEs don't have information on what the fund is meant for or how to access such funds. So the portal gives that opportunity, or that is that platform that an MSME can know what is available in Bank A, Bank B, Bank C. Then there's also the need to create a micro development, MSME development fund, which will be private and public sector driven. It is one of the recommendations. And the agency is working assiduously on this to see how we can facilitate that. I was talking on finance, that finance is a major challenge, and that the agency or the policy has made several recommendations. Then one other area that the policy had also made recommendation borders on compliance, climate regulatory environment, where we have CAC, NAFDAC, SON, IRS, the various revenue generation bodies in the state and national. So what the policy has said is to see how can all these compliance institutions, regulatory institutions, why not jeopardizing their work? It also ensures that the MSMEs that they are to midwife also have an enabling environment to operate. Then the other area that I talked about that the policy mentioned is technology research and development. Like I said, technology is what is driving the entire world now. Whether government, business, even relationships, technology is the one driving it. So there are several recommendations in the policy that borders or that are under, that can be captured under the technology research and development area. And like I said, this is one of the 9 policy areas that the policy focuses on. Like I said, like I was saying, I was just talking to myself, I didn't know. Infrastructure is a major issue, a major limitation to the operations of the micro, small, and medium enterprises. The cost of running business in Nigeria is high because most of our MSMEs are local government to themselves. They provide water, they provide electricity, up to the point of coming together to provide even roads. and understanding that the world has become a global village. Nobody wants to know whether Nigeria MSMEs don't have access to light. They don't want to know whether they don't have access to water. The world is competitive. And if they cannot compete because of price, then it means that Nigerians that are here will even be buying things that are not produced here. So the policy had made serious recommendations on how or what Nigerian government, even the private sector, needs to do to ensure that we have enabling. The document had made recommendations that bordered on 9 areas, and I was just talking about infrastructure. That infrastructure, the cost of infrastructure has made our MSMEs not to be competitive. And now that we know that there's no boundaries in the global market, then we have to do everything possible to see how we can make sure that the infrastructure, which essentially borders on power, road, water, and all that, to be sure that our MSMEs are competitive. Can you hear me, please? I think I have to be doing this all the time. Hello.
We can hear you, sir. We
Okay.
can hear you, sir.
I need to be sure so that I don't keep talking to myself. Now, I was also talking about the new initiatives in this new policy, and I talked about the provision for a public-private implementation platforms, where the policy had made provision for opportunities for various players within the MSME space to come together in the implementation of this platform. And I also talked about the engagement, the several stakeholders engagement that the agency had while going through the process of revising this new policy. We went around the whole geopolitical zones, engaging with very key stakeholders. Then there's also the establishment of a policy secretariat in Sweden. What they do is to coordinate the activities that borders on the policy recommendations in Nigeria. Then there's also the provision of the seat or a co-chair position at the National Council for MSMEs and even the State Council on MSMEs. What this means is that unlike before, where it was just the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria that is the chairperson of the National Council on MSMEs, we now have provision for a seat or a co-chair position by the BMOs, very active BMOs. We co-chair with the Vice President at the national level, and at the state level, we co-chair with the Deputy Governor or whoever is the chairperson at the state level. Then there's also now hello, can you hear me, please?
Yes, we can
hear you.
Okay,
yes.
Okay. Now, there's another initiative is the constitution of the Ministries Development Department and Agency, Department and Agencies Focal Persons. What it means is the agency or the provision, the national policy had made provision where we now have focal persons in all relevant institutions, all the institutions that have responsibilities that borders on the development of the subsector. So they come together. So the minister inaugurated them, and we now have direct persons that we can contact from all the ministries, departments, and agencies across the country. We have that at the national level, and we also working towards having it at the subnational levels. Then the policy also made clear definition or role assignment to the various ministries, departments, and agencies, telling them these are the expectations for each department, each MDA, for the duration of this the revised national policy. Also, one of the innovation initiative is also we now have an independent monitoring and evaluation committee that monitors the processes, the activities, the various activities that are recommended in the national policy and report back to the secretariat. to see who is doing what and who is not doing what. Also, we now have provision for the civil societies to be member of the M&E and even the general supervision of the development process of the MSME policy. There's also the regular engagement with stakeholders to feel the pulse of what they are thinking about, or how the development of the MSME is going in and as it affects them. And I think this is something that the Empower Nigeria, Empower Africa is also helping us to achieve by riding on this platform. I want to use this opportunity to thank Empower Africa for this opportunity. Then I would now want to look at, hello, can we hear me, please?
Clearly, sir.
Okay. Now, no matter how beautiful some of these policies are, whether it is national policy on MSME or any other policy, we have found out that there are some challenges. They always face some challenges. And I think that is one of the worries and one of the reasons why this program is holding now. Now we are transiting, or we are about transiting from one government to another. What happens to so many other policies? Beautiful policies that money has been invested into, such as this national policy on MSMEs. And that is why we took our time to see, okay, what can affect the implementation of the policy implementation? One is poor information sharing. I can tell you that up to 30–40% of MSMEs don't know about the national policy on MSMEs. So, and even within agencies, whatever they are doing, they don't share information. There's also, that leads us to this lack of interagency synergy. Most of the agencies that borders or that have their mandate bordering on the development of the micro, small, and medium enterprises don't share. There's no synergy between them. All of them have this silo mentality. They don't work together. Can you hear me, please?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Then there's also the challenge of bureaucratic bottlenecks. We have feedbacks from MSMEs that have tried to access some funding opportunity windows, some that want to maybe get their products registered with some of all these enabling or compliance institutions, and the kind of delays they experience, bureaucratic bottleneck that they experience, that is so frustrating to them. Those are some of the challenges that inhibit the smooth implementation of some policy implementations. Then you now see that some policies are actually overambitious in nature, making it very, very difficult to be implemented, making it very, very difficult for clear understanding of potential players in the process. For instance, Mr. Olasen talked about the Startup Act. Yes, it's a beautiful policy, but do we really have a clear understanding of what it is and how it is to be done? Some policies are somehow overambitious in nature. Then you see some agencies or some organizations that are supposed to drive the process of implementation of the policies don't have the requisite manpower and sometimes the financial resources. We are government institutions, and I cannot run away from the fact that we are sometimes constrained by funds, limited funds. So the beautiful recommendations in national policy are there, but how much of it can we have enough funds to actually implement? Sometimes it becomes a problem. Then, with the fact that is the fear of Mr. Olasen is this abrupt determination of extant or existing policies. For whatever reason, you know, this government Nigerian government, we are so fond of terminating without any reason, maybe any beautiful policy. It could be for personal reasons. It could be for maybe hello. Okay, it could just be that, okay, I'm a new government and I want to start something new. So let us just terminate whatever it was in existence before now. So now, what are the policy prospects? Hello, can you hear me, please?
Yes, you can hear you, sir.
Okay, now, what are the policy prospects? What are the opportunities in this new policy? What are the opportunities in this new policy? The new policy has made provision for women funding, access to women funding. If you look at the recommendations under the finance, you see that the access to fund for women was given top priority, because it is beginning to look as if women are better fund manager or enterprise managers than the men. And in as much as they have been found to be better in that aspect, their access to that fund is not as easy as it is for men. So the policy had tried to address such challenge. Then the policy also look at how do we increase our windows of export? How do we connect our SMEs to the export market, which is very, very huge? We can no longer focus on the domestic market. There is opportunities, huge opportunities that Nigerian MSMEs must key into. So the prospect is there in this policy. One other problem that we've taken that also limited the growth, the sustainable growth of the MSME subsector, is the poor integration by large enterprises. There's huge market. Some of all these outputs of these micro, small, and medium enterprises are input to these large enterprises. So the policy had tried to see how they can create an integration, a backward integration of large enterprises to MSMEs. Then there's also the competitiveness of MSMEs in Nigeria. The policy has looked at how do we make sure, or how do we ensure that MSMEs in Nigeria are competitive. For your information, the agency is working with Faith Foundation to do a sort of an annual competitiveness research on MSMEs. We want them to tell us, why is it that Nigerian MSMEs, which sometimes we take some of all these things for granted. We say we are not competitive because of power, because of the price, because of the cost of this or that. But we are believing that with the research report from Faith Foundation, Nigerians should be able to address the poor competitiveness of our MSMEs in Nigeria. The infrastructure improvement, there's also the provision for private-public partnership in the provision of infrastructure for MSMEs. For instance, the agency has on its own provided here in Abuja a common processing facility for people that are in furniture making enterprise. So if other organizations can key into initiatives such as this, we are indirectly creating access to infrastructure for MSMEs, because some of all those equipment cannot be, the MSMEs cannot afford it by themselves. But if we have organizations or large enterprises that can help in providing some of all this infrastructure or some of all this equipment, it makes the competitiveness much easier for MSMEs. Power supply is also an issue that inhibits MSMEs. There's enough recommendations in the national policy on how this can be addressed. Then compliance to standards, standard by NAFDA, standard or registration by CAC, and so many other compliance institutions. There are more than enough recommendations there. Then packaging and branding is also an issue that provide opportunities for growing the MSME subsector. Like I said, the implementation or the national policy became active in 2021. Let's say mid-2021. From 2021 till date, how far have we gone with several recommendations? Several recommendations. Now, so far, the MDA focal persons have been inaugurated, and now we have over 47 MDAs that have keyed into the new national policy on MSMEs. We've had several meetings, and the suggestions or the recommendations are being captured and secured in the secretariat. Then we have also inaugurated 8 new state councils across Nigeria. Like I said, the state council is the organ for making policies or implementing the policies recommendations at the state level, and they work with the state government. The membership is drawn from the state government, the MSME space, and some enablers. So we've so far inaugurated 8 new state councils, and we have also reactivated or re-energized 13 state councils that were initially inaugurated before now, but were inactive. So 13 of such have been reactivated. Altogether, we have about 15 states that are yet to inaugurate their state council. Like I said, we have the suggested members of the state council on MSMEs. Here we have about 16 or 17 recommendations. These are mere recommendations. When we went around the state, we usually tell them that this is not cast in stone. They can decide who to be member of their own state councils. Just like I said, the only difference here is at the national level, we have the vice president as chairperson. Then at the state level, we have the executive governor as chairperson, but most times they ask their deputy governor to be the chairperson in the state. And for the co-chair, they use any of these, most times we recommend that the chambers of commerce or any active BMOs that is in their state can co-chair. Then Smedan State Office usually serve as the secretariat. Then if they have state agency for SME development, they are also member. The Ministry of Commerce and Industry are members, Ministry of Agri, and like Mr. Ola said, most states don't have the kind of ministry that they have at the state. So it depends on what the kind of ministry they have. But we said that Ministry of Finance should be member, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Youth, Ministry of Women Affairs. Then there should be a representative from the civil society, one representative. There should be a member from the State Revenue Agency, one representative from 5 active structured BMOs and organized private sector. The media is supposed to be there. One representative from Algon, one representative from the Microfinance Banks Association in the state, then one representative from the development partners, if there is any in the state. Then also we recommend that one representative from the CBN, NAFDAC, SON, BOI, BOA, NASA, NEPC, CAC, if they are in the state. So this is how far I'm going to go, and I want to thank you for the patience and sorry for the challenges of network and breaking transmission. Thank you.
Oh, thanks so much. We appreciate Mr. Onesi for that presentation. Thanks so much. Please, let's have our questions and to be able to ask them together. And that's why we have our representatives as a VIP representing the BMOs. I just want to note out that he mentioned some agencies. Of course, we have one of the agencies, and we actually have one that is giving us problem. I won't say giving us problem, but a way that we actually wanted. We were thinking of bringing the general across to the Corporate Affairs Commission, because the NMSMEs in Nigeria, we are not actually. There are great services coming from CAC, but somehow it seems there is a gap. You can't really communicate the way we can communicate with other agencies. So anyway, that's we will have when the discussion gets there. because we want to actually, anything that is kind of issue, we want to see how we can really have them solved. So we have Mr. Fale Babatunde representing the CEO, Nigeria Export Promotion Commission, and right now he has the floor before we bring in all our MPO's representative. Mr. Babatunde, please, I don't know if you have a slide or you speaking direct. So we still have him. Mr. Babatunde, please, are you there? So Mr. Onesisa, after Mr. Babatunde, like we have in the program, we'll be having the BMO's commitment, situation reports and concerns. Each will have the 3 representatives in the house, and then we'll have the speaker responses, then questions, general questions and answer. So is Mr. Babatunde ready in the house? You're welcome, sir. Over to you, Mr. Babatunde.
Yeah.
All right.
It's a technical issue, please, because I could not unmute myself before now. So, but it's okay now.
So you have the floor now, sir.
Yeah, please. Thank you very much for the opportunity, and we appreciate the effort of organizing this. Well, quickly, what I have to say is just in about 10 minutes or 15 minutes, I will be done. It's about issue you are talking about, ease of doing export business from Nigeria. I will tell you, ease of doing export business from Nigeria. The topic looks, too simple. I will not say too simple. It looks as if it's easy. It's not easy. Let's call a spade a spade. The officer from SPIDA just spoke now about the enormous challenge we have in terms of doing business in Nigeria. But that I will not give to that again. But I will also say I would rather look at what are the support we are giving to exporters of MSME origin. I will look at that straight, and I'll be talking about. Am I online, please? Because I'm hearing some background.
Yes, you are
Hello.
on.
Okay.
You are on, sir.
Gentlemen, you should please mute your mic when you are not talking. Somebody is talking from the back.
I'll be talking about our activities. But first and foremost, for the purpose of becoming an exporter, there are certain things you need to do. Number one, we expect that for you to be a player in the export business, you must be a registered limited liability. We don't accept business name for now. You must be either an NGO or you must be a cooperative. And to register, you just go online. It's not difficult. Registration online is you get a certificate under 24 hours. And how much are you paying? 13,500 to register as an exporter. And after registration, the next thing you will be required to do is to take some training in terms of export clinic. We do export clinic. We try to see how we guide you. And basically, what we'll be telling you is about export guide and talking about the 9 steps that you have to take to become an exporter. We talk about export readiness. We talk about e-registration. We talk about understanding the market. We talk about export plan. We talk about export documentation and procedures. We will also talk about logistics and freight. We also talk about export pricing, financing, and the legal issues. These are the basic things we normally provide when you register with us as an exporter and to be trained. But we expect that before you become an exporter, you must check yourself. Am I export ready? And how do you do that? Number one, to be export ready, you must have a product. And a product, sometimes I tell people, it's not about physical product. It could be service. It could be logistics. But what do you have to offer the world? Because export business is about trading across the border, trading beyond the border, trading across with other countries, either bilateral or multilateral. That is what it is. But what do you have to offer? You must first perfect that one. And again, I will talk about the support we give MSMEs. The support we give MSME mostly is about capacity building, number one. What do you mean by capacity building? You are green in export business, you are new. There's a program we call Zero to Export. That means we take you from A to Z of export. What do you need to do? If you want to be a commodity exporter, most times we provide mentorship program so that you can understand what it takes to export. Again, we also look about sponsorship to international trade fairs. Across the board, if you have a product you are export ready, this is another class of exporters. When you have a product, we want to showcase you in the world by participation in trade fair. And the support we provide for trade fairs that we identify the trade fair that suits your product. For example, if you are producing maybe let me say confectionaries now, and we fed your confectionery by your standard, it will be in African countries. We take it to African countries, for example, and then when we are doing that, the support we give is that we normally give 50% rebate on ticket. If it costs 700,000 for the ticket, we'll give you 350. When you have arrived over there, when you return, you prove that you really attended. Then we provide the exhibition space for you free. We also provide logistics while over there in terms of accommodation. In terms of providing the interpreter. Then you expect that you'll be able to cater for your staying there, and also do other things. Then we'll do advertisement. We'll do all logistics that you needed. We'll clear your goods. We carry at least 50 kg minimum as pro sample for you. All this we do, and we advertise. Mostly MSME that the major one that attend to us. And of recent, we started partnership with Smidan to see how we can increase that participation. We did two together now in Gambia. We were in Gambia last year with MSME all together, and this year we're also in Gambia for 1 month trying to promote MSMEs product across the globe. Another thing again is product certification. We support you by what we call Go Global certification. What do you mean by Go Global certification? We discovered a lot of MSME needed their product to be certified, but unfortunately the cost of certification is very expensive. So we take it off you. We advertise even about a month or two ago. We advertised for MSME we advertised for this certification body to come and certify some MSME. Last year, I think around November, we already picked about 200 MSMEs whose product will be certified under ISO, under ASIP, under GAP, under FDA. So we pay for this, all expenses paid in terms of certification, so that with the certification, your product becomes competitive. In terms of product certification, we do that a lot to support. Then capacity building is not only what we do. We also collaborate with donor agencies like CBI now is training some people on ginger, and we can export ginger to European countries. All this we do technically. All we do is provide support. And again, we also support in terms of providing seedlings, especially for farmers. Some farmers that are in high demand. For example, some few years ago, I think about 4 years ago, we provided for a group of farmers in cocoa. We got them improved seedlings. Here you ask, why is NPC doing this? We are doing that. It's not a mandate, it's not a core mandate, but we go beyond our beyond our core mandate to ensure that products are of high quality. And we work with agencies in the research institutes to make sure that this is done. And to prove a point, we buy seedling. Okay, if you do this way, you will see that the quality, the production in terms of quality and quantity we increase, we improve. So we go a long way to do that in product support. And apart from that, there are other intervention programs we have. There's what we call DEW, Domestic Export Warehouse, where now you don't need, because of the Papa gridlock and every other thing, we have some locations in Kaduna, in Port Harcourt, in Lagos, where you can assemble your goods. Every agency that needed to certify or give certification for export will give you in that place. You don't need to go all out because of logistic problem. And there's another thing we are doing now. We call it export warehouse. If we are very current, you will see that we are in China now, trying to launching the export house in China. What does that one do? The export house in the other country, outside the country, is about EPSME, that MSME need to maintain a permanent representation in another country. The export house is to aggregate all products from Nigeria so that you can put your product as a sample in that export house. If you have an order, the operator of the export house will assist you in connecting you to market and helping you. And when your goods comes, it stores it for you. But of course, because it's public-private partnership, you have a fee to pay. But this is taking off burden of you traveling all over to that country and it's time to look for market. The export houses are to also do market research and intervally share the information. And for now, we have about 4 that is already established. We have in Togo, we have in Kenya, we have in Egypt, and now we have in China. Saudi is on this way, and we're also working to have one in Dubai. We are planning to have other places in South Africa and also in Canada, in US. But all these are subject to availability of funds. But we are presently in 4 locations now, and as we talk and as we speak. And then what we do is about making sure that the place is aggregates Nigeria product. It operates, let me say, it operates like the kind of John Oat, where all products of Nigeria will be there in that country, and the operator will also assist in marketing, certification. But for example, in Kenya now, if you are to enter Kenya, you need the certification of Kenya Standard Board. The operator assists to ensure that your product meets the requirement over there by telling you what to do and the steps you need to take. That's about export market and a lot of other things. We also work with city chambers to do trade mission, and then we also work with our missions abroad in terms of business organization, in terms of one-on-one business, in terms of what we call contact promotion program. If you have a product and it's unique and you want to do market penetration in that country, we work with our mission abroad and tell them, oh, there's a unique product that we have, and that if it's only you, as long as you can prove that you have done your research and that this product is acceptable in that country, we support you. All these are what we do in export. And I can tell you, it's good. We also talk about packaging, because packaging is a problem in years back. It's no longer a problem. I can tell you that 5-6 years ago, it's a major challenge. But now, with the support of NEPC in terms of telling you how your content, how to package your product, how to make your presentation acceptable to the world, and then also to look at the standard what standard best practice in terms of packaging. We do that a lot. We have a whole of packaging unit in our service that help the SME on packaging. And apart from that, we also have what we call inclusive export business, which involve majorly the youth and women and the less privileged, the physically challenged people. We do that to make sure that everybody is encouraged. And apart from that, we have export incentive that we give for exporters that exported certain goods in terms of EEG, Export Expansion Grant. And we also do EDF, Export Development Fund, to support SMEs in the area of research, in the area of packaging, in the area of participation in trade fair, in the area of drawing feasibility plan, in the area of training. All this we do through a provision of incentives. We have quite a number of things that we offer in terms of services, because we recognize that MSME is the bedrock of any economy, because a lot of them do similar things but with uniqueness in their product. We offer all this. We also do what we call training courses. We do symposia. We also support in export research studies. We also export in product design and consultancy. And again, we also disseminate information about market a lot. If you go to our website is very interactive. We have a lot of things that we write there that you can encourage yourself. And we have a program that we call One State One Product. What does One State One Product does? We are working with state government to ensure that they identify one product in that state and put resources behind it to make sure that it's promoted to export value and it's increased. It's increased, the value is increasing, and we have good products to export. And we are working with and as administration, we have state agencies. We are in all states of the federation. We have our market there. We have our offices there. We work with the State Ministry of Commerce, and our office is based mostly in the Commerce Department, where we work with the state to develop their products in the area of product development. and researching into what you have, what you don't have, and how do we move it forward. This about institutionalizing it, and presently we are in about 34 states where we have what we call our smart offices, state coordinating offices over there. We do a lot of things in terms of supporting MSME. We recognize and appreciate MSME as the major drive for export, and these are all we do. And we also identify about 22 products that we say, okay, there are low-hanging fruits that people can invest in terms of export drive. And we share this information. You can visit any of our state offices. They work with MSME, and then majorly we work with SMEDA so much that now we're like a twin sister under the same ministry. I think that's what I want to say for now. If there are questions, I will take it. My colleague is also on ground, Mrs. Kufon, to also provide, because I may have to leave in about 15 minutes to attend other things. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Thanks so much, Mr. Femi. Next 15 minutes, he will be sharing the experience of husband and the concern. That's why we put the commitment, the situation report, and the concerns. Thank you, sir. Mr. Femi. Sorry, Dr. Femi Egbeshola. Are you in the house, sir? Okay, maybe let's
Okay,
say.
can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Okay. Oh, Dr. Femi, you're welcome, sir. Yeah, yes. We can hear you.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Permit me to start on existing protocol and at the same time give thanks to the organizers of this wonderful program. It's the kind of program we need to be having from time to time, so that those of us from the private sector and then those from the government sector can have a platform to bring our issues together and see how we can interconnect and provide solutions beyond what we already have. Like the MC has mentioned, I am to speak on the husband commitment to MSME policy and export business situation report, and that's the topic. And I would want to dwell more on exports, because I'm sure quite a number of mentioning before. I said one of the challenge has been informational barrier, that many of the SMEs are not aware of the programs, the support and initiative of governments and other organizations that are being geared towards supporting MSMEs. And the research shows that about 20-30% are those that are taking advantage of some of this information because they are aware. So what do we do as an association to support this? We partner with corporate organizations in training and retraining of our people who are into exports. We created an export group so that they can always network between themselves and share news and information. We also collaborate with export consultants to come in and train our people on how best to go about it and provide them with latest information and ideas. We also liaise with Nigerian Export Promotion Council for training and retraining and certification of our members. Another barrier, the second one that is internal, is financial barriers. Financial barriers is about the kind of obstacles MSMEs face when they need funds to go into exports. Lack of finance to support export activities is indeed a big challenge in this part of the world. And that survey helps us to realize that less than 30% of MSMEs are able to access finance for export purposes. And this is enough to discourage MSMEs, and it is actually working against us. And you would discover that for you to go into export, you need a large sum of funds to be able to do so. Unfortunately, the banks too are not helping out because their conditions for export does not favor small and micro businesses. What solution do we offer in our association as ASBON? What we do is that we partner with international funding organizations that offer single-digit interest rates. One of such international funding organizations partnering with us is Growing. We also negotiate with local financial institutions, that is the banks, to help our members to ease access to loan at reduced interest rates. We also make sure that we continue to tap into available government intervention funding programs for exports. We also work hand in hand with Nigerian Import-Export Bank, that is the NEXIM. We do also have a cooperative society in place that helps to do some kind of funding for those who are into exports. The third internal barrier is marketing barrier, and that is
ability to be able to sell your product outside the shores of this country through exports. Well, and it has to do with making sure that your product conforms with the standard that is expected in the foreign country you want to take it to, making sure that the pricing, the distribution, the logistics, the promotional activities are right abroad. Unfortunately, MSMEs do not have the resources and the capacity to be able to do all of this most of the time. And what do? We, as an association, help them to be able to get in-house export marketing training. We help them to identify reliable foreign partners that they can deal with in the country they intend to sell their products or service. We also make sure that we have affiliation with partners in those foreign countries to supply us information on marketing support services. And we also expose them to government-organized trainings. And one of those trainings is being organized from time to time by the Nigerian Export Promotion Council. Now let's leave that and look at the external barriers. One of those external barriers is, can you hear me? Am I still audible?
Yeah.
Am I okay?
You are on, sir.
Yeah. Okay, then. One of the external barriers is competitor barriers. That is one of the constraints limiting MSMEs to be able to compete favorably in the foreign markets, because the competition is stiff. And for us to be able to compete very well, it means that MSMEs need to develop their own unique competitive strategy when faced with competition from foreign companies. We also understand that as an SME, we are contending with a lot of multinationals that have all the funds to do whatever they needed to do to compete in the international markets. What solution do we provide in our own association as ASBON? We created an R&D department funded by the association that provides detailed research information that helps those who want to go to the export market to be able to compete with their intended foreign country markets. We also make sure that we provide certain kind of hand-holding for those who want to do so. We also render technical support through our technical partners in the export business. And at the same time, like I mentioned at the other time, we have a group called the ASBON Export Group that provide other kind of support for those who want to go into exports or already in exports and needed to compete favorably. The second external factor is procedural barriers. It becomes very difficult for SMEs to understand and manage the complexity of customs, Nigerian customs documentation and its bureaucracy and some other that kind of documentation and certification that they need. What solution do we provide in that regard? We invite personnel from the Nigerian Customs Service to come and give us training and discuss how this can be done seamlessly. We also invite the Nigerian Export Promotion Council to come to our meetings to discuss with our members and even organize trainings where they can always do so. We also understand that these government agencies on their own do organize their own training too. So we help members to take advantage of this training that is being done independently by this body that talks about documentation and procedural action for exports. The third external barrier we shall be looking at, which is the final external barrier, is a governmental and policy barrier. Yes, and for SMEs wishing to go into exports, it is important for them to understand government matters, government policies, and government dictates as it concerns exports, and be able to confront those policy barriers. But unfortunately, those barriers have been even complicated by government because of so many actions and inaction taken by government. And government too have not provided enough support and incentive to help SMEs to participate in the global market the way we should. Well, we should understand, like I mentioned earlier, that we have a lot of multinational corporations that are at the forefront of this process, and they are also there to sell. So any effort they can do to stifle out or mitigate MSMEs, small business owners, micro business owners, medium business owners, from also taking advantage of this export opportunity is their goal. But what do we do as an association to assist in this? Well, we make sure that we provide our members with critical information on government policies and that they can help to be able to address those issues. We also do a lot of advocacy to government to make sure that stakeholders are included in government policy decision-making processes, because it is easier for us to tackle policies at their early stage, at the incubation stage, and when they are already made and being passed down our throats. And for this, we have been able to get some results. Quite some organizations, some agencies, some ministries are now including us in their policy process, calling on us to help to review some of these policies before they are finally passed into an act or a law. I would want to stop there and just quickly comment on the national policy, the MSME national policy. We have had the representative of NAFDAC talking extensively on this, and if you look at our policy, you would see that its content is not too much different from the previous policies and programs of governments on MSME. However, the problem is the ability to actually implement such policy provisions to make sure that they meet its objectives and strategies. Hence, good intention is not enough. The implementation of such policies must be ensured. And while the intention of the MSME are noble, that's this policy is noble, without the political will to create an enabling environment, this 2021 to 2025 policy is likely to end the same way as many other policies in Nigeria has ended, that is, being unable to meet their intended objective to support the growth of a strong and vibrant MSME sector. What do I mean? Let me give you an instance. The representative from Sweden was able to highlight the importance of the National Council on MSME as stipulated in the National Policy on Micro, Small and Medium Enterprise 2021 to 2025 edition. But if you ask me, I'm a major player in the industry, you will discover that quite a number of states have their MSME council either not inaugurated or inactive, as he has rightly mentioned. Like the state I come from, I don't want to mention the state for other reasons, we have an inaugurated MSME council. But from the day of the inauguration, nothing has happened. And also, too, that policy states that this also should be replicated in the local governments. All the local government in Nigeria, there were 774 local governments. How many local government has the National MSME Council been replicated in their local governments? I doubt if there is any. And what's the problem with this? The problem with it is that as noble as our policies has always been, implementation is the problem. There is really nothing done or little done on monitoring and evaluation of these policies. How has the government, how has the SMEs and how has other agencies that are in charge of policy making gone down to look at how these policies are working? Are they really working? Are they just on the paper? What have been done to make sure that those pain points that are identified are addressed and we move on? And this is because really we do not have enough collaboration between government and these stakeholders. This time around, I'm talking of stakeholders in the MSME ecospace. If we are able to come together to have more collaboration, more partnership, you will discover that we will be able to have better policies that are being implemented to the letter. While government on their own can make policies, it is difficult for them to monitor the implementation of these policies. It is our duty to work with government to do this, if only they collaborate enough with us. Because of time, I would like to stop here. And once again, thank you very much for the opportunity and your listening attention.
Oh, thanks.